Again today, after 4 days of gap. As you know, for various reasons, I was not here after the inaugural function. And today is a special day. Not only we have a valedictory function, but we are starting the day with a lecture by a great scientist. Not only a great scientist, but for you all, the students at Pedagogical, this particular course, a great teacher. And not only for pedagogical students, even otherwise, in general, as a human being, a great teacher, to teach you about life. And my job today is to introduce each and every speaker, as you all know. Thanks to Dr. Rashmi, she has been doing that before. But today I have the special honor and privilege to introduce to you all Dr. Talrojan Mahapatra. And I'm sure you do not know, you do not need this introduction at all. I'm sure about it, because all you belong to, you worked with him for long, you know, when he had his wonderful stint and great innings as Director General of ICR and Secretary of Labour, Government of India. But nevertheless, there's certain portion of a biodata of a person you may not know before he became Director General or after he has relinquished the charge as Director General, what all was up to. And I have this special honor because I can introduce him in different ways because I have worked with him for over about 3 decades now. And but nevertheless, officially, kindly permit me, sir, to go through with
time is more important.
No, time is more important, but also this is an education to them. And I'm sure they will aspire to be a person, you know, like you are, and help them in their long journey, not only a scientist, but also as a teacher. I have a long biodata here, but I think before I go reading into it, I will just recapitulate. I'm sure you all know that he is a PhD, you know, an IRI, MSc and PhD from IRI. He did his BSc from Orissa Agriculture University of Technology, Agriculture Technology in Orissa, Bhubaneswar, and he actually did his schooling from a village. You know, hardly you find people that schooling from village, then from one of the best colleges in the state, he does his BSc, then goes to MSc and PhD. You know, MSc actually from OUAT. Oh, sorry, MSc from here, BSc from there. MSc and PhD together from IRI here. I should not have forgotten that because we were together actually in the same class at times, a PhD, when I was doing also my PhD. And after his PhD, his actually journey started, you know, with his publications, with his kind of contributions he made in the area of molecular markers. You know, in the whole country, if you talk about molecular markers, he's the person who really initiated that kind of work with his own indigenous knowledge and efforts in India here, without any stint going outside the country. So that's what he started. It was recognized heavily by the International Indian INSA, International Science Academy, you know, as a Young Scientist Award, which was bestowed upon him after his PhD with the great excellent work which he has done. And then he, of course, won several awards, but then he was working as a scientist, as again a teacher, as a trainer to all of you in the area of molecular breeding, molecular markers at NIPB for long, for about 20 years. And after imparting all that kind of training, fresh training to all those scientists and, you know, scholars, he moved on to as a director of an institute in Rice, as you all know, in Cuttack. Now we call it as National Rice Research Institute, followed by coming back to IRI as a director of IRI. And then, you know, after director IRI, he was picked up. He was identified as the person to be the chief of the National Agricultural Research and Education System as DG, ICR, and secretary there. And he has been doing wonderfully well. I'm sure you all know about it. He has excellent publication records, over 200 research publications. His H index is about 60 or 70, which is again very high. Not only his publications, track record, otherwise, but he has contributed significantly in development of Pusa 1121 as a variety, basmati, you know, rice variety, which is earning a, you know, kind of a foreign exchange of rupees 15,000 crore annually. You know, more than 15,000 crore annually, which is, you know, that's a great contribution. And further, also several of the first varieties through molecular breeding was developed by him, by his own actually speaking guidance, you know, in the division of genetics and plant breeding. And his research experience in the area of molecular profiling of crop varieties is also very well known. And, you know, if we call him as the people talk about father of green revolution, I would say him is an expert, is a molecular breeding expert and a father of molecular breeding in India. Not only that, genomics, after that, genomics took birth sometimes in early 2000. And the very first project, the students and the teachers or scientists like you must know, the very first project in this country on genomics, actually speaking the few words to start with of a proposal was written by Dr. Mahapatra himself. Later, we had all these projects internationally of rice, tomato, indigenously of many other crops. ICRIS had also ventured into some of the legumes, etc. But the very effort, initiation of a genomics effort in the country after molecular breeding, it was from Dr. Mahapatra's own hands and from his own lab. And in fact, now also he has contributed significantly, as you all know, identifying the impact of some of the technologies, increasing the pulse production, over 10 million tons during his tenure, and also adding value to some of the varieties of sugarcane recovery. All were identified, even pomegranate, value addition, etc., were identified, which made heavy impact, on national agriculture, the kind of, economic generation point of view. It made a very big effort. He has got, of course, several awards after his Young Scientist Award as well. He was awarded the NAS Tata Award, National Academies Award with Tata, DBT Bioscience Award, NASI Reliance Industry Platinum Jubilee Award, and then IRA Dr. B.P. Paul Memorial Award, recognition award of this particular academy in crop sciences, Indian Genetics Congress Lifetime Achievement Award, and Shri Om Prakash Bhashin Award. And he has served as a member, this is also important as a scientist, on the editorial board of several reputed journals, including, the BMC Genetics. And more importantly, when India was celebrating 50th year of independence, Week magazine came out with some 50 influential scientists of the country. And we are very happy that Dr. Mahapatra and one of those influential scientists on agriculture in India. And this is an honor to all of us, actually, speaking that he's amongst us today here and to talk to you about it. And he's, of course, a member of all prominent academies of the country. He had been the immediate past president also of this particular academy, as you all know, and he has been conferred upon doctoral degree honoris causa by 12 different universities. So I think this is one way, and the other way could be, I could introduce to him as a very good friend, very good human being. And I have learned a lot from him, I must tell you. And whatever I have gained, in my life at times in the area of biotechnology was started again by him. He guided us in the beginning. So friends, we have now with us actually a person of the stature of Dr. Tulloshi Mahapatra, who is currently, I'm sure you all know, is the chairperson of PPFRA and contributing significantly again in the area of farmers' variety or breeders' variety protection in the country, which is again very important nationally and internationally. So, and about his teacher stint, I'm sure you all would know, and he has been teaching. His classes have been attended by all those who are not even registered in his course. They won't find a seat to sit down. More than 50 to 60, they'll be standing for 3 hours lecture, not only 40 minutes class. Even AIMS doctors at times, they wanted to know about PCR, etc., and molecular breeding and all kind of molecular aspects. They also will travel down from AIMS to IRI to attend his class, either early morning or late evening, and no less than 3 hours of his class. So I have had the pleasure of working with him for long, and Dr. Joshita is sitting here as one of our students from NIPB, and more you will all hear from him now. And we are very honored to invite you, sir, to welcome you again to your own academy, for this particular lecture, to all your scientists of ICAR, to make them good teachers like the way you are. So with this, I request you to kindly, the floor is yours.
So,
and you can
thank you. It's already 9:15. Good morning, friends. अभी सबको जरूरत नहीं होगा, फीस बढ़ेगा, सब बढ़ जाएगा. So I don't have a habit of sitting and teaching, so I will stand up. And of course, early I used to bring slides class. So today there is no slide. So I just talk to you. Get answer from you rather than me teaching. You will set the content of effective teaching today. So though I know most of you, but I would prefer one round of introduction. So just name.
You can start from there. Name and the institute you are from. Quickly.
I'm Sushant from ICR Cartridge.
Okay. And Parameshwar from NRRI Pedagogical.
Yeah.
Morning, sir. I am Dr. Sushik.
Good morning, sir. I'm Parameshwari, Senior Scientist from MBBJ Region Station Head.
Be a little louder as well. Yeah, please.
I am Sambhu Krishnalal, scientist, ICL IIB Raj. I'm Anjali Kumar Jha, principal scientist at IHR Bangalore.
Good morning, sir. I am Dr. Arkesh Mukherjee. Thanks.
बैठ के बता सकते हैं
Central Citrus Research Institute.
बैठ के बताइए मैं भी देखने के लिए थोड़ा दिक्कत होगा तो वो खड़े होके बताइए ठीक है सबको ऐसा सब लोग जानते हो
Dr. Dhananjay Nagle, Principal Scientist, ICL IIM. I am Dr. Vinod Kumar Basni, ICR NIDSM Director. Good morning, sir. Myself Deepak Kumar Gupta, IRI Shank. Good morning, sir. Udip Singh Jadon, Senior Scientist, Plant Technology at ICR Kazi.
Good morning, sir. I'm Dr. Swar, Division of Agriculture Engineering, ICR, IRI, Cambridge.
Good morning, sir.
माइक यूज करिए बैठ के बताइए
Ajay Kumar Singh, Business Scientist Executive at ICR National Institute of Application Management, Karamshan.
Good morning, sir. Somnath Kolkar, ICR, National Research Center for Trade. Namaskar, sir. Hansraj Mehla, Kazgi, Jodhpur.
Good morning, sir. Kaushik Chakravarti from ICR NRRI.
Good morning, sir. Myself, Dr. Birendra Kumar Verma, Senior Scientist Horticulture, ICR, Badapani.
Namaste, sir. I am Dr. Nagasri, Principal Scientist, Agriculture Extension, ICR Credas.
Good morning, sir. Myself, Naresh Mishra, Senior Scientist, ICR Central Citrus Research Institute, Nagpur.
Good morning, sir. Dr. Ravindra Kumar, ICR IWR, Karnal.
बैठ के बताइए
Good morning, sir. Myself Pratik Sundar, ICR Krija, Barakpur.
Good morning, sir. I am K. Pandey, Senior Scientist, Regional Unit, ICR Sirkat, Nagpur.
Good morning, sir. I am Kishore, Senior Scientist, Agronomy at Kazi.
I am Ratan Tiwari, working as a Principal Scientist at ICR IWR.
Swapna from IAS Alatna.
Morning, sir. Myself, Dr. Jayant Mesham, CSR Nagpur.
Good morning, sir. Myself, Dr. Manoj Chaudhary, IRI.
Good evening, sir. I'm Rahul Tripathi from IAS. Good morning, sir. I am Dr. Tanmay Kumar Pole, Senior Scientist, ICR RCR Patna.
Nirud Roy, Senior Scientist, ICR Research Complex for NH Region, Union Meghalaya.
Sandeep Gange, Principal Scientist, Machinery Power from Central Institute of Agriculture Engineering.
Good morning, sir. I am Dr. Seth Madhave, Scientist Plant Technology from ICR.
Good morning, sir. I am Dr. Chunal, Principal Scientist, Indian Institute of Heat and Boiler Research, Karnal.
Myself, Dr. Santosh Kumar, Senior Scientist Plant Building, ICR RCR.
Morning, sir. Myself, Dr. Rakesh Kumar, Senior Scientist Economy from ICR Research Complex for Western Region, Patna.
Good morning, sir. Myself, Chandrakant Chale, from ICR NRC on Competencies. Good morning, sir. Myself, Karpaya. I am from ICR Directorate of Monument Garlic Research.
Chandramani Raj from Indian Institute of Horticulture.
Good morning, sir. Gorak Shivachowre, Senior Scientist, ICR NIASM Baram.
Good morning, sir. I am Dr. Preeti, Soil Scientist at ICR IRI.
Good morning, sir. Guruprasad Pandey, Entomologist, ICR NRI.
Good morning, sir. I'm Dr. K. Karthikeyan from National Bureau of Research. Punya from Division of.
Good morning, sir. I am Karan Singh from CIA Bhopal.
very good so nice to know all of you very good morning once again to all of you. It's a pleasure to be with you and some of you already are known to me because of our previous interaction at some point or other. Of course, being an ICR system, most of you been knowing ICR system, but of course the people associated. Thanks to the Academy for inviting me, and thanks Dr. Bansal for your good words.
Thank you.
And it's not really required all the time because these people already know me. I have been in the system for such a long time, and that too at the ICR headquarters for more than 6 years. So today the topic which has been given to me is assigned to me is effective teaching. And this is the training course on enhancing pedagogical competencies for agricultural education. Of course, as a teacher, this particular term I never used. Many a times we import certain things from outside, and try to grasp some of those. But you will see in our traditional system and in effective teaching system that we have in India, we have more than what so-called pedagogical methods recommended by outsiders tell us, as I see. So with that, let me start with this, that what you mean by effective teaching. When you consider teaching is effective, how many of you are teaching already? Those who are at IRI, and of course in other institutes, you have a little scope to teach formally, but certainly informally teaching. So what is effective? When teaching is effective? When teaching is effective? When teaching is effective? Yes.
When our message, which we are communicating to receiver, it goes to receiver.
So if I say loudly, it will reach.
Sir, grasp करेगा.
तो grasp करेगा. तो grasp करेगा तो effective होगा, right? आपके हिसाब से वो effective teaching है ना? चलिए. Anything else? Yes.
To understand whatever the teacher said that.
So grasp, understanding. So एक ही बात है. So it's the one and same. So anyway, so this is the reinforce the point that what the teacher is telling has to be understood by should be grasped or understood by the student. So then it becomes effective. So anything else? Yes.
When communication happen both way.
Both way. So that is effective teaching. Okay. So communication has to be both way. Yes.
Sir, we are teaching.
बैठ के बताइए. हाँ.
And if that purpose they are going to apply in their life.
Okay, life. Okay. The purpose, if it serves, then it is effective teacher. Okay.
Sir, when the students is reaching up to the level of analyzing, synthesizing, and creating, then if they are living, their level has increased to higher level.
So means elevating the level of understanding of the student and in entirety. So anyway, so that is almost similar thing. Yes, Tom.
So when attention of students doesn't go anywhere except the teacher.
So then teaching becomes effective. Students can remember for a long time. For a long time? Okay. So then the teacher is effective. Okay, and obviously teaching is. So anyway, anything else? So now, to summarize what we discussed. So one, that if the level of understanding of the student increases and the student is able to grasp and able to apply, all that subsequently, and obviously he or she would remember those for life. So that is what we have discussed so far. Anything else? So that means we are discussing effective learning and you are teaching me what is effective learning. Not me telling you, but you are telling me what is effective teaching, right? Anything else?
If we consider it as language, so language should be same.
Language should be same. So
whatever we are saying, that should be at that level. And they should retain percent and they should evaluate that.
Okay, so there has to be a longer retention. And the communication happens effectively if the language is common. Eh?
Yeah. Okay. Now we also during this training in emotional attachment they are giving for us.
Emotional attachment with whom?
Our students.
Oh, emotional attachment among students?
No, suppose you are giving an example by storytelling.
Okay.
Then it becomes effective.
Oh, so storytelling, is an essential component of effective teaching. That's what I'm saying. So to make teaching effective, you have to have some storytelling. Okay.
Sir, your body language play very important role.
Your body language.
Body language.
Okay. Of the teacher.
Teacher.
Okay. Okay. So that's a good point. So teacher has to love this. Okay, that's a good point. Yes. Yes.
Ultimately, whatever learning outcomes have been designed at the previous stage, that should be fulfilled at the end.
Okay. So learning outcomes should be improved and realized. Okay. So the set learning outcomes should be realized. Yes, Dr. Rakan.
So if somehow teacher is able to help in realizing the potential of the candidate.
Okay. Okay. So help students to realize his or her potential. So makes the teacher effective. So that's what you say. And so yes. So I thought that would be a blackboard. We could have written all those down. And to just one. So to make it really effective. So the component of effective teaching is missing today because we have been lost in the mad rush for the digital revolution. And in that context, we have forgotten the traditional methods of learning and understanding and all that. So if someone can write down, I'll be very happy. And then what we learned today in this effective teaching course and the class. So that would be very useful. I would have jotted down those 1 or 2 points and what you say. And in fact, you are, teaching me what is effective teaching, right? So that is what, I'll summarize at the end. So I'll not tell you anything. And you will only tell what is effective teaching. Okay. So that is what I mean. You are all principal scientists, senior scientists, and all that. And you have seen the world already. And you have been a student, and many of you have been teachers. And obviously, you have gone through the whole process of teaching and learning, right? And teaching doesn't happen in isolation. And obviously, teaching and learning happen together. So if there is no learner, so obviously there is no teacher. So unless there is no learning, so obviously there is no teaching. So forget about effective teaching. So as a medium, to be complete, so we need both. So obviously, this is very, very important. So what is that we have discussed? What is that we have discussed? So if I start from the end, that and a teacher has to remember what he teaches in the class, right? So if he can't remember what he teaches in the class, so there's no effective teaching obviously happening. So number one, that there are many things we have discussed, of course, and you can summarize and then tell me of what you have said instead of me telling. Anyway, I'll tend to listen to Josita first.
I just wanted to add points so that a teacher has to be able to stimulate the interest of the student.
Okay, so the teacher has to stimulate the interest of the student. So make students interested in the class, right? So if the students teachers can make the students interested in the class, so that means effective. And Parameswaran said that if students remember the teacher for a long time, that means the teaching has been effective. So there are different ways to express, the way or teaching happens. And of course, the effective, enhanced outcome is the important one. How the understanding of the student has increased, and what student learned certainly helped him to build his own field of research or career in the process of this teaching. And all this we have discussed. Anybody else? Let me listen to all of you sometimes. Yes. Priti?
we should we have to make the students in such a way, teach in such a way so that we can increase the curiosity of the students.
Curiosity of the students. So you actually contribute to building curiosity.
So even if we are not apart from my class, we can be conducted in other classes.
Okay, so actually creating curiosity. So creating curiosity and is another important aspect of effective teaching. So obviously, so student become curious, so student become inquisitive, and student get involved and all that. So anybody else would like to add? Yes, finished.
I like that.
Yeah.
Though I don't endorse that, but
You don't endorse?
so that but I like that.
Oh, okay. If you don't endorse, don't add.
But our education system is like that we have to tell that fact.
Okay.
That he should be able to score marks.
Score marks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if a student is able to score marks, that means teaching has been effective. So that's a good indicator.
Yeah.
Right. Of course, you don't endorse, but I endorse. So obviously, a teacher has to know who has done well. So obviously, that's okay. Good point. So that is what we do in normal teaching process, and we measure largely by the grades secured by students, and we give gold medals to those who secure higher grades. And so obviously that has been an indicator of learning. So the learning is better, which is revealed by higher scores. So obviously anybody who has learned more could be because of effective teaching. But in a class there are 50 students or learners, I would say, not students, and everybody doesn't secure that. Say teacher being common. So how much you can ascribe to teaching, that remains a question mark. It could be the student or himself or herself, contributing to that grade rather than teacher contributing. So always doesn't really have one-to-one correspondence between what teacher teaches and what student or learner scores. Not necessarily that can be ascribed to effective teaching always. But anyway, so that's a good point. Anybody else?
So a teacher is good when he resolves very complex issues.
Okay.
To make it simple.
So the teacher has the effective makes the teaching effective when he makes the complex issues and processes and concepts explain in simpler terms and makes a student comprehend the topic or subject better. So the enhancing the comprehension of the students. So basically understanding and all that which was said in the beginning, grasping, understanding, and comprehension, and in enhancing clarity with regard to difficult concepts and issues which is being said. So that is effective teaching. So obviously a teacher has to be effective, and only when he is able to explain the concepts, the difficult ones. So what else? Yes.
Ethics of using the learnings. If teacher teaches and how to use the knowledge which I have taught you.
So use of knowledge. We have earlier discussed, but you brought in another term, that is ethics. So that we have to see what context effective teaching concerns that. But anyway, I would consider that important point, and I'll also tell that at the end. And we always should remember that we have time is up to 10 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
That's right. So otherwise, I used to have a kind of open session. So whether it is 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours, doesn't really matter. So that is how I used to engage with students. But anyway, so anybody else? Yes.
The teachers should create the environment, sir.
Create the environment.
to interact, because otherwise,
Okay.
if somebody is having the doubt, some
Mm.
teachers, they will go on continuing.
Yeah,
They didn't have the chance to,
yeah,
they
yeah,
really understood or not, we don't know. So,
exactly.
the environment should be good.
So a congenial atmosphere built in the classroom and helping students to share the fear and then interact with the teachers better to communicate his or her difficulties in comprehending the issues and concepts. So obviously that's a very important point, that creating a very congenial, friendly atmosphere in the classroom obviously constitutes a part of effective teaching. So if that is there, a student we had a teacher, very knowledgeable one, and he would come and stand straight and start talking, and also explaining some of those in the blackboard, of course. And if someone raises a question, so you will have a hearty laugh first of all, and that laugh kind of demolishes the student whether he has done a mistake by asking a question. So then the students get inhibited by subsequently while trying to ask questions, because so that happens. So that laugh conveys not always a positive vibe, and so obviously the environment and situation prevailing in the classroom becomes different, not really friendly and congenial. But anyway, that's a good point. Anyway, anybody else? Vasudha, you wanted to say something else?
Learner oriented.
Learner oriented. Okay, so learner oriented. Yes.
The effective teaching is one where the teachers will keep.
So what he said it should be oriented towards learners. So means to explain it better, that if teaching has to be effective, so obviously the learning experience has to be enhanced, and the outcome has to be there visible, and obviously, and that happens with the learn. So if a learner is not benefiting, is not getting a higher level of skill or knowledge or whatever, so obviously teaching is not effective. Okay, so that's the kind of summary what you said. Yes, but you said something.
Yes, sir. Effective teaching one, sir, where the teacher will keep all the student attentive.
So keeping all the students attentive. So nobody should sleep in the class. So that's what I am seeing. And yes. So very important point. And making students. So
First class, I will tell you one short thing. We used to be at the backbencher, but we had a fear that sir will push the question to anybody. So we used to be attentive. So that's
so you are recollecting and trying to cite it. So that students are all attentive. So and students are all attentive. And how do you make them attentive? And one important point is that anyone can be questioned at any point in time. And if you don't really follow what is being said in the class, obviously you will not be able to answer that. So that, kind of, a sense that, I should be able to answer what is being asked to me. And I should be able to participate in the class so that successfully. And that sense makes the student remain attentive. So that is one way of making students attentive. The other way to make students attentive, very good point he said, and is to have proper eye contact. And if you do not have eye contact with the students, a teacher just start looking at the sky and or the slides and keep delivering whatever he or she wants to deliver. And there is no eye contact. And there is no communication happening between teacher and student. And obviously, that relationship, somebody said the relationship doesn't build up. And to build a relationship, my way of doing was that knowing each one of you. How do I know each one of you? And if I don't know each one of you, I'll not be able to build a relationship. And to know each one of you. So what I used to do is every day, I will spend 5 minutes on attendance. Not to mark that whether you are present or absent, that doesn't matter to me. I said in the very first class, that doesn't matter to me. You can sit in your home and then learn. That doesn't really matter to me. The attendance for me was to know all of you by name. And that's the reason why I remember today all the names of the students whom I taught, most of them, some of them I have forgotten. So every day, 30, 35 classes in a trimester I used to take. And obviously every class, if you take the names and then look at the face, so you connect the names with the face, that's one thing. And you connect individually with each one of you, of the students. And the process build a personal relationship and rapport. And that is so essential for effective teaching. I do not know what literature says. I haven't gone through any literature to come to the particular session with you. Because what is effective teaching? The teaching is effective if you have a personal rapport. The student likes you. If a student likes you, certainly he or she would follow you. And she would like to focus on what you are telling. And then he will go back and then read what you have said, would like to recollect what you said. And if that happens, the teaching becomes effective. If he or she dislikes you, then obviously there will be a kind of, I will not say anger, but disenchantment building inside. And obviously what you said would not be really going inside, but it will be actually troubling. And in the process, nothing gets understood. And teaching becomes highly ineffective. And why some students opt for certain topics in higher studies based on their exposure during graduation. And that's because of effective teaching. And some of those teachers who are very effective in communication, they have very effective communication skills. I don't think you are writing, but I don't know whether it is being recorded. And if there is effective communication happening, that's a very important component of, somebody said, the important component of effective teaching and learning process. If the communication is not effective, it's not just language, what you say. It's not just language, but effective communication, whether it is in mother tongue or Hindi or Rashtrabhasha or whatever, the English, it has to be effective communication. And how do you make effective communication? And if you do not know, if you do not know the correct words, you must know the language. You must know the language of the topic that you are teaching. If you do not know the language of the subject, if you are teaching genetics, you must know the language of genetics. If you are teaching agronomy and soil-water relationship, you must know the language of soil-water relationship. There are language-specific terms and expressions and phrases of each one of those. And if you do not know those and use incorrectly those words and phrases, obviously your teaching would not be effective. Right? So you must know that. And very importantly, not only you know each one of, the teacher knows each one of the students by name, and also is able to connect with the face, and also knows where the student is. What is the level? What is the level? And if the teacher doesn't know what is the level of the student, then he cannot deliver his subjects, his knowledge effectively, and the students cannot actually learn and improve their knowledge. Cannot. So obviously, in a class there are 50 students or 100 students, and the level would be so different. And to know that, and those who have attended my classes, they know I would have a quiz. Before starting a subject, I used to teach gene regulation, and that's the second part of eukaryotic molecular genetics. And I was to start that, I used to have a quiz on lactose alcohol. Obviously, I expect when you want to understand the gene regulation in case of eukaryotes, you must know what is happening in prokaryotes. And not necessarily in details, but at least the fundamentals of those kind of gene regulation. And the quiz was not to grade you, but to know where you are. If I know where you are, then I know how to really deliver and what to focus on. What I should explain better. If I do not know where you are, and obviously there is great deal of variation in the level of understanding of the students. And how do I deal with that? It's not easy. Of course, you have to go down to the lowest level of understanding. If you start from there, everybody would understand. And if everybody understands, obviously, the teaching becomes really effective. So you must know where the students are, what level the learner is. And then you bring in, otherwise you keep bombarding with high-sounding words and then sentences and then phrases and then all recent publications where he or she doesn't have the fundamentals and there's no clarity. And obviously, you would not be taking the course anywhere, and it will be a futile exercise. And that's the reason why you must know where the students are and to make the teaching very effective. And while doing so, you must also assess yourself. I can continue asking you the questions, but I must understand where I am. Where is my level? And also at the same time, I must gain insight into what you want. And that's the reason why for almost 10 years, initial years of my teaching, I used to collect, I had a questionnaire of almost 10 pages. And I used to collect information. I don't know, Pratik, by that time you provided your inputs or not, whether it was continuing. But I used to get that inputs from the students to evaluate myself. If I do not know where I am, if I do not know what students want, and to the extent that what you want more, what you want less, where it is insufficient coverage, or where I'm not able to explain, and where the course curriculum is totally missing, and you like to add, whether it is more focusing on fundamentals of certain things, or it is more advanced, or you need a balance. What exactly the students need. And you need to really assess in the beginning. And if you do that, when I started teaching, there are only 10 students in the course. Okay? And when I left to CRRI, and we used to have registration in the library, and there will be a queue of 50 students, and then each trying to get signature for registering the course. And obviously there will be other teachers sitting there with 5 students or 10 students, and some of them would be very envious of why this fellow gets so many students. These students judge how passionate the teacher is. Effective teaching happens if teacher is passionate about what he wants to tell. If teacher has no life in him or her, doesn't communicate effectively, and there is no passion, so the students also realize that it will be a futile exercise and it will be waste of my time going to that particular course. Why should I go? So a teacher has to be passionate, and if he or she is not passionate about what he or she wants to really tell, so obviously students would not really take interest. Why students would sit for 3 hours?
Why a student would sit for 3 hours? If it's a futile exercise, and if he or she is getting tortured inside, not understanding anything, why he or she would sit for 3 hours? Only when it is effective teaching, he or she would actually, or learn more, and that would be greater learning outcomes. Grade is one. Grade is one. This is one indicator of better learning outcomes. But as I say, since everybody doesn't seek your A grade, so it's not the teacher's role, very little role of teacher, but that is only one of the indicators. But I must tell you that it is not only the learning outcome is not really indicated by, not only indicated by the enhanced knowledge of the students or the enhanced skill of the students. How the perception of the student changes, how the student attitude changes, how the student builds in the process his career, and how the student builds his or her character. Is there something in the teacher that can influence the student to build his or her character? If it is not there, it will be more mechanical than emotional and psychological. And that emotional and psychological impact to build the character of the student would be grossly missing and effective. The teaching would be incomplete. The effective teaching would be incomplete if that happens. So that's the reason why a teacher has to be at that level of elevation. That level of elevation, not just with regard to his passion for teaching, but not just with regard to his knowledge and the effectiveness of his communication, but also with regard to his own character, the strength of his character. And that would have a long-lasting effect on the students. And students also would be influenced far more by that. And students judge everything. The students really judge everything. That's what I have seen. It's not just what you teach in the class. When I used to teach in regulation, I would focus quite a bit of time on the external stimuli. And many students of those times would remember what I used to tell that time and how your lifestyle can influence the expression of genes. And today it's all known. The epigenetics and so many of things, and not all of you are from genetics. I'm not going to those. But people know. What I mean is that not only just integrating the fundamentals with the advanced, but also integrating some of those real life examples in teaching. Somebody say, and how do you actually bring in real life examples into teaching? I'll cite one example because there's only 5 minutes left. And I used to summarize. In every class, I used to summarize. And that is also an important component of effective teaching. A teacher should be able to summarize what he or she said in the class. And for that, and he has to make a story. If you are unable to make a story, and if you are teaching a subject of sustainable agriculture, you have to make a story about sustainable agriculture. What is sustainability and how agriculture could be sustainable? And if you make a story, at the end of the class, you have a message, you have a summary. And that summary would be taken home back by the students. And that would be never forgotten. And that summary would be never forgotten. So make a story, and you should know how what is storytelling and how effective storytelling should be. And that effective storytelling should be having some examples. And you can give good examples if yourself is a practitioner. A teacher to be effective has to be practitioner of what he or she is teaching. And if you are not a practitioner of what you are teaching, obviously those real examples should not be there as a part of your teaching to make the teaching effective. So that is very, very important in your respective fields of specialization, your specialization. Since you know that very well, and you do research, you practice, and you know how, you know best how and whys and hows of all that, and what's, and all that you know well. So obviously you would be able to explain that better. Explaining the complex issues, as you said, in a better way. And that happens if you are a practitioner. So effective teaching happens if you are a practitioner. And you can also cite examples from real life. And, I'll cite one example. There was it is time when aged people used to come to classes to learn. And there was, a class of ladies who are housewives, actually. And, aged ladies. And they came to the class. And, someone said that why they can't pass matriculation in, say, 2 years or 3 years. So teacher said, fine, what is the difficulty? I am trying my best. So when the ladies were sitting, the lady students were sitting, and the teacher was explaining, mathematics, and particularly, a concept was perpendicular. What is perpendicular? So I tried his best to explain what is perpendicular. And there were some ladies, and one lady said that I don't understand what you are telling, what is perpendicular. And whatever the teacher explained, she could not understand. So that question remained. So the teacher went back to his teacher and then, said, I'm trying my best and to explain what is perpendicular, and I couldn't explain the lady and with all my efforts and so much of experience and all that. So, teacher said, okay, you tell what you are doing and what you do every day and all that. Teacher said, Guru started asking. Guru of Guru, okay? And that lady said that, I do this and that and that and that. And then, the teacher said, okay, so you do this, for instance. This is what the teacher said. आप सिलबट्टा use करते हो? सील जानते हो जिसमें पीसते हैं, मसाला पीसते हैं, ट्रेडिशनल सिस्टम. यूज करते हैं ना, करते हो ना, करते हैं. कितना मसाला पीसना होता है ना, बहुत सारा. तो सुबह शाम करना होता है. जब खाना बनता है तो मसाला पीसना होता है. जब पीसते हो, जब हाथ थक जाते हैं तो क्या करते हो? वो जो उसका जो ऊपर का जो पत्थर होता है, क्या बोलते हैं? जो भी है, इसको ऐसे रख देते हैं, ना कैसे रखते हो ना, ऐसे सीधा रखते हैं. तो ये जो सीधा रखा, नीचे जो आपका जो था, जो बोलते हैं हिंदी में, ये जो रखा ना, ये पोजीशन है परपेंडिकुलर पोजीशन. ये पोजीशन है परपेंडिकुलर पोजीशन. ठीक है. So the real life examples and the guru can explain that, better to make teaching effective, right? So this is the example I thought. This is already 10 o'clock. And we can keep going, maybe 30, 40 minutes we talked. And what is effective teaching? So that means if you go back, you can have 20 things, the foreigners should come and then tell us, we have a wonderful system. Wonderful system. Guru would ask the students to do certain things, and doing is learning. Experience is knowledge. Experience is knowledge. Don't forget this. Experience is knowledge. आप सोचेंगे ना ऐसे कुछ मैं 2-4 बता दिया और याद रख के आप गए और एग्जामिनेशन रिप्रोड्यूस कर दिया, वो कोई नॉलेज नहीं पड़ा आपका. तो एक्सपीरियंस इज नॉलेज. जितना ज्यादा एक्सपीरियंस होगा उतना ज्यादा नॉलेज होगा. अब हम लोग सब बूढ़े हो गए, तो हम जो है we have gone through so many things. So obviously you will be more experienced. So you will have more knowledge, about many things that we can talk about. And if your eyes and ears are open, then you will be having more experience and obviously more knowledge. So learning from everybody, and obviously that's what I used to do, that I would, poke into, the students' understanding and level. So obviously, I encourage students to ask questions, and I would say that there is no silly question for me. Every question is important. So in the process, students gets encouraged to ask questions. Somebody said asking question and makes it effective, and that's true. So if students are encouraged, are open and free, and there's a congenial environment, they're free to ask questions, and they're not fearful of the teachers, so teaching becomes very effective. So I'll not really summarize today, and the only thing I say that I learned from you, and you taught me what is effective teaching. And that's what the message I would like to give you. And when you go back and try to make the classes interesting, and try to learn from the students first, and make them your teachers. If students become your teachers, that's what I used to say in the class. And one statement given by a famous scientist, that if students of today are no better than the teachers, we are going nowhere. So that means the students of today have to be better than the teachers of today. And if I assume that and accept that, it's very difficult. Teachers have big egos. If teachers have big egos, there cannot be effective teaching. If teachers have big egos, there cannot be effective teaching. And if your ego melts, then you can accept everybody, irrespective of their level of understanding, irrespective of their caste, creed, religion, and the region, and all that. You observe everybody into yourself. And if you do that, and that's the reason why I was telling that the teacher has to be having an elevated soul. If teacher doesn't have an elevated soul, so obviously he cannot lift the students' level of understanding, and that soul would remain undeveloped. A developed soul, a disciplined soul can make another soul disciplined. And this, a discipline is he who is a disciple. Discipline is he or she who is a disciple. And if you are not my disciple, then I can't discipline you. So that's the reason why this Guru Shishya Parampara is so important. And we have forgotten all that. And use electronic and digital platforms to make teaching effective, because many schemes I used to draw, it may not be very explicit, and you will not be able to explain complex issues and problems. And one of our teachers used to write everything in the blackboard. There will be 5-6 blackboards, they will be all full of information. And students, I was unable to write them down. What is that written? And he would explain, and with a kind of a bullet train speed, he would explain, all those written there in different blackboards. So obviously, you can't, get everything of those. And how do you really learn those effectively? So the student-teacher relationships is at the core of building effectiveness in the teaching learning process. Right? So friends, time is over. And thank you very much for teaching me what is effective teaching. Now we are, please have a seat. So you may. Thank you.
we must thank Dr. Talochan Mahapatra sir for such a lecture on the 6th day of this training course. Would have done wonders, I'm sure. While we all know for which course are we here, pedagogical methods of teaching, enhancing your capacities, competencies, etc. Fine, but you would have gone through effective teaching. I think it contains all, except what is mentioned in the last, that you can define, refine, make it more effective by using the technology, which added value, and that's what we're talking about. And normally when I actually speaking, look at the students, and I sometimes wonder even myself, see if my daughters, suppose they were not doing good in the school, so I will go and talk to the teacher. It's your responsibility to make them good learners. So the effective message which I got, that in a class like this, there's a lot of genetic variability, as Dr. Mahapatra sir mentioned. We all know about it. And which he mentioned so clearly, if teacher will not come down to the level of understanding the genetic variability of his own students in the class, that what is the level of understanding of a particular subject, how will he teach them all equal together, bring them to that stage of learning equally? So this is so important, that a teacher must come down to the level of the missing link, basically is the one who is the weakest student in the class. So the teacher has to bring him up to the level of all those who are already understanding better about the subject which is being taught. And of course, there are many other things which sir just mentioned to make it more effective. So it's not only the methodology alone, please remember this. Whether you talk of emotional attachment, you talk of social upliftment of the student, you want to increase their knowledge of the subject. And at the end, he also reminded us about the discipline is so very important. The word disciple, I think that makes even connection better. Okay. And in today's world, this is my way of understanding, is that not that you have to be always friendly with the students. Guru Shishya cannot be a friend as long as they are having that kind of relationship. One would only expect them to learn. That is the profession with which we are attached at the moment. Seriousness in the class, as we have been expecting, and as you would have all seen in Dr. Mahapatra's class. I have seen it myself, really speaking. And we used to wait for him, for a cup of tea, in the evening at times. And then some of my friends waiting, I said, no, let Dr. Mahapatra finish his class. And we have to be waiting for hours. So that's kind of effective teaching. It would be so much engrossed and carrying the students always with him. So idea is therefore, friends, that while we all want to be passionate in teaching, but you have to understand your student better, in terms of the level of understanding, so that you can really, encourage, create that kind of environment for the students to learn, irrespective of you being a good communicator or not. I think these are some of the things we must try to inculcate. And that's what the whole course is, to teach you, all of you, actually speaking. We will have some kind of reactions from you today in the evening. But nevertheless, this was a first experience for us. And we are very fortunate to have Dr. Mahapatra as the speaker, himself as a teacher, and having occupied such high level positions in the country at the highest level one can think of, but then remaining grounded, and effectively holding hands of the students and even walking with them throughout as a friend makes a lot of difference. And that's what we are very thankful to you, sir, that you have been guiding all of us for long, and we continue having guidance from you, even future course of action, whenever we organize other, batches of this particular training course. So with this, let's give a big hand again.
कुछ भी नहीं किया, मैं गप्पे मारा आपके साथ।
No, it was very good. We have taken the notes and you have rightly mentioned. We'll summarize it and we will even send it to you for
मैं खाली आपके बात सुन के जा रहा हूँ।
ये तो होगा हमारे पास,
ठीक है।
ये बैंक डिटेल्स तो होगा, कोई नहीं ले लेंगे। ऐसा सिग्नेचर सर हम करवा लेते हैं आपको। अच्छा यहाँ पे से क्या करना है? क्या सिग्नेचर चलिए सर जल्दी अटेंडेंस तो बात करेंगे।
You good?